Next on the news, it's the best education a kid can ask for. A wrap of all things Catholic Schools Week in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Lessons, games, plus a show of science and skill.
I'm here with 5th grader Chloe Chavez inside her invention, the Tornado. It's an umbrella that keeps your clothes dry too. And it's one of more than 100 at Our Lady of Sorrows Invention Convention. I'm Jessica Easthope. That story's coming up next.
Then meet the Etheridges. They're not Catholic, but they chose a faith-based education for their son, and there's no turning back. Pope Francis in South Sudan. It's a trip he's been waiting for, but right before his touchdown, a bloody incident that killed more than 24. Then this.
There was this controversial figure. Everywhere he went, people challenged him.
How the Son of God is making an appearance at the Super Bowl. I'm Christine Persichetti. The special edition of Currents News starts right now.
You go inside and it's raining, your clothes don't get wet.
A Catholic school is fostering the scientists of tomorrow. Students making their dreams a reality at an invention convention. All this week, we've been highlighting the best education money can buy as the Diocese of Brooklyn celebrates Catholic Schools Week. And at Our Lady of Sorrows, students showed off their STEM skills following the scientific method to make everyday items better. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story from Corona, Queens.
Your hand can't reach the bottles and containers.
Thomas Edison, Benjamin Franklin, and Dio Reyes. You might not know that last one yet, but Dio hopes one day his name will be said among the greats.
I think this is the best invention I made so far, so it was a really big accomplishment for me.
But for now, he's a 7th grader at Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Academy, and he's showing off his latest invention.
As you can see, my hand will be able to reach inside, so neither does the sponge, and I won't be able to clean.
The Spinge.
I was really tired of trying to clean the inside of bottles and containers, so I was like, how about I make an invention that can help me solve this problem?
The Spinge is one of more than 120 useful inventions made by the 4th through 8th grade students as a part of Catholic Schools Week.
Learning has to be fun. Learning has to be hands-on. You know, it's not all about what you learn in the textbooks. It has to be reality.
Principal Francis Serpico used to be the school's science teacher.
We are now about to begin our invention convention.
STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, is a diocese-wide priority. According to the superintendent's office, every single diocese school offers some kind of specialized STEM program or extracurricular activity.
All the academics are put into one thought when you're creating a project like this.
The students have been working on their projects since December. Some are the kind of thing you can't believe you didn't think of first.
When you go inside and it's raining, your clothes don't get wet. You have it to cover your head, but sometimes your clothes get really wet. If you put the plastic around it, your clothes would stay more drier and less wet.
The inventions will be judged, and there will be 5 winners from each grade. Those top students will then be presented a certificate in front of the entire school and their parents. In Corona, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Some great ideas. This week is all about showing the world what Catholic schools are made of, but there's one person who every student looks forward to impressing most, and that's the Bishop of Brooklyn.
Never use the name of God in a bad or careless way.
Bishop Robert Brennan was the biggest kid in kindergarten, but as he flipped pages and captured the attention of the class at St. Sebastian Catholic Academy in Woodside, he was learning something too.
This year for me, it's a little bit more like being at home. But even this year, I see myself experiencing new things. Our students are very comfortable living Catholic life. They speak with the vocabulary of our faith. They have a way of relating it to the whole of their life. It's all integrated.
All this week and all across the diocese, Bishop Brennan picked up on the pride Diocese of Brooklyn students have in their faith, and that's something you can't find in a book. Bishop Brennan has a long and impressive resume, but he may have just accomplished his most impressive feat yet. That is through the eyes of students. Bishop Brennan made some free throws at St. Peter's Catholic Academy on Tuesday in a game of teachers and priests versus students. The bishop helped the faculty win and was even given a special honor at the Catholic Schools Week celebration with what the school called Bishop's Bucks. For every act of kindness a kid performed, they earned $1 with the bishop's face on it. Those were cashed in for prizes, including a group photo with the Bishop of Brooklyn. Schools in the diocese are doing such a great job. They're even attracting students who aren't Catholic. Coming up on Currents News, we'll introduce you to one family who chose a faith-based education after watching stories unfold right here on Currents News and in the tablet.
Christy sat down here and I sat down here and she said, I have a crazy idea. And I said, I think it might be the same thing I'm thinking. And before I knew it, she blurted out, she said, what about Catholic school? And I said, you know, yeah. And it was one of the easiest decisions we've ever made together.
And they're not the only ones. 30% of students enrolled in Diocese of Brooklyn schools are not Catholic, but their parents see value in the faith-based curriculum. That's coming up later on Currents News. One man who knows a lot about the schools in the diocese, former tablet editor Ed Wilkinson. He's out with a new book, a snapshot of his 50 years covering the biggest events in the Diocese of Brooklyn and beyond. As Jessica Easthope tells us, it's helping to keep Catholic journalism alive.
Most Sundays, Ed Wilkinson is just another person in the pews at Our Lady of Angels Church in Bay Ridge. He's been a parishioner there for 30 years, but for longer than that, Ed has been a journalist in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Chasing Church News, that's the title of his new book. It chronicles his 50-year career with the tablet newspaper, each picture representing a single moment in one of them.
It gives us a sense of Catholic identity, of who we are as a church. People sometimes forget, they should be proud to say they're Catholic. And when you look at these pictures and you say, well, this is what it's meant to be Catholic for the last 50 years.
On Sunday, Ed signed copies of the book after Mass.
Thank you so much.
Along with purchasing a book, parishioners were able to sign up to be a member of the tablet and part of its mission of covering news from a Catholic perspective.
The church has to be available to evangelize in all different forms of media. And if newspapers are out there, we've got to be involved in it. We've got to be getting our message out there. But there's nothing like the print media.
By joining, readers play an important role in preserving Catholic journalism.
People today are so depressed and they're really overwhelmed by world events, and the tablet keeps everybody together and working towards the good things, that Jesus wanted us to do.
The Tablet and Nuestra Voz are the last Catholic newspapers in New York. Our Lady of Angels pastor, Father Kevin Abels, says supporting them is supporting the church.
We have so much good news to get out to people, and we have to just hold on and make sure that we're supporting the good work of the tablet.
Ed estimates he's taken hundreds of thousands of photos over the years. His favorite in the book isn't one of well-known church figures like Mother Teresa or Pope St. John Paul II. It's a picture of a young boy drinking water from a fire hydrant on the streets of Williamsburg in the 70s.
It said something about poverty. It said something about thirst and, human need. Every picture has a story behind it.
The pages of Chasing Church News are where church history and Ed's own history collide. In Bay Ridge, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
If you can't get to one of Ed's book signings, you can still become a part of the Tablet's membership program and get your hands on Chasing Church News. For just $50, you'll not only get the paper sent straight to your mailbox, you can gift a subscription to a friend, plus get access to the Tablet's online content and a quarterly newspaper, and get a commemorative drawstring bag and pin. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Donate $100 and you'll become a sponsor, getting everything we just mentioned, plus a Tablet baseball cap, and be a part of the recognition listing on the paper's website. Contribute $250 and you become a patron. And among the things added to your list of perks are 4 tickets to Tablet Appreciation Night at the Cyclone Stadium and free VIP access to certain diocesan events. For $500, you'll become a benefactor of the Tablet, and you'll also get that signed copy of Ed Wilkinson's book and an invitation to the annual Catholic Communications Mass and Reception. And if you give $1,000, you will become a founder voucher that'll secure you an invitation to the annual Editors Roundtable reception. To see the full list of membership levels and the benefits of each, just go to thetablet.org/become-a-member. Pope Francis is now on the second leg of his trip to Africa. He touched down in South Sudan Friday. The trip fulfills one of the Holy Father's dreams. His arrival in Juba, the capital city, has been years in the making, and it comes as the country is in the midst of a major humanitarian emergency. South Sudan has the third largest refugee crisis in the world, and some 4 million people have fled the country or are displaced. Half of them are children. Just hours before the Holy Father arrived, 27 civilians were killed in tit-for-tat violence about 3 hours south of Juba. According to reports, the violence broke out after fighters from a rebel group killed 6 people from a herding community. The herders then retaliated, killing 21 civilians, including 5 children and a pregnant woman. Elise Allen, senior correspondent for Crux, has been traveling all week with Pope Francis. She joins us now from South Sudan. Hi, Elise.
Hello, Christine.
So, Elise, it is horrific to hear that more than 24 people were killed ahead of the Pope's visit. And sadly, these attacks are all too common, right?
Exactly, and that's one of the main reasons that the Pope has come to Juba and to South Sudan, is to provide an encouragement and support and consolation to the people who have experienced this kind of violence for years. It's going on, South Sudan is the world's newest country. It was, it achieved independence only in 2011, and just two years later, in 2013, its war and conflict broke out. And so it's been pretty much marred by violent conflict since its beginnings. And this kind of thing is just unfortunately so common. You have thousands, you have millions who have died and thousands who are displaced right now. And these attacks are unfortunately, like the ones we saw yesterday, it's still a sign of how insecure and unstable the situation on the ground is still.
Yeah, Pope Francis for years apparently has said he's wanted to visit South Sudan, but the unstable situation there has prevented it. What changed this time? We know his itinerary before he left for Africa was changed to avoid a particularly violent area.
The difference now is that the situation has stabilized a little bit more. The South Sudanese authorities and opposition leaders have reached an agreement in 2018. They reached a peace agreement that is largely held, and it has yet to be fully implemented. But the majority of fighting amongst the major parties has stopped. It's a lot of local stuff that we still see. And as we know, that wasn't the case in the Congo and in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the Pope was just a few days ago. He was able to make the visit to Kinshasa, but was not able to fulfill a visit to the eastern city of Goma as he wanted, because fighting there has escalated in recent months. So these are two very fundamentally unstable countries still, and South Sudan in particular, while it is making progress, has a long way to go.
So many are looking to the Pope to bring hope to this war-torn area of the continent. What is his message to the people there?
Well, Pope Francis just arrived this afternoon, and he met with both the country's president, Salva Kiir, and then he talked to the country's civil authorities and the diplomatic corps, and he basically had a very strong message that, you need to get your act together. This has been too long. This agreement was made in 2018, and it's now 2023. He said, the progress you're making is good, and I applaud that, but really you need to step it up and you need to do more. But his message to the people, I expect over the next few days, will be one of deep consolation, a desire to console them and to embrace them in their suffering. And that's what he really came here to do. So I think we're going to see some strong words and symbols from him in that regard over the next few days.
Okay, Elise Allen, senior correspondent for Crux. We'll see you again on Monday.
Thank you, Christine.
Be sure to stay with Currents News and the tablet for continuing coverage of the Pope's trip to Africa. There's a lot more news headed your way. Meet the Etheridges. They're not Catholic, but that didn't stop them from considering a faith-based education.
I ended up reading a lot about Catholic schools in Brooklyn.
How the tablet and Currents News helped them make the right decision. Plus, talk about a chilly church, why students in Michigan are creating a chapel out of snow. And bringing church to Super Bowl Sunday, the expensive ad with a message about Jesus.
Currents News is there.
The first March for Life since Roe v. Wade was overturned.
People kept coming in, and it was a really big celebration atmosphere.
The March for Life. For From Brooklyn.
What parishes do we have here?
St. Mark's.
Sacred Heart of Mary.
To Washington.
This generation has a lot of eyes on them, and so if we come out and show support and stand firm, hopefully change will be made in the future.
And the work that lies ahead.
Transform the culture.
When news happens, Currents News is there.
Which school to send your kids to is a big decision parents have to face, and for some, a Catholic education may never cross their minds. That was the case for one Brooklyn couple until their jobs actually made the decision easy. Here's Jessica Easthope again with their story.
It's a typical routine for a family with kids. Dustin and Christy Etheridge get their 6-year-old son Noah ready for school.
I love you. Have fun in gym.
Then father and son dash across Prospect Park to St. Xavier Catholic Academy in Park Slope. When Dustin lets go of Noah's hand, he knows he's being put into good ones.
They call him by name before he even gets to the front door. They're intentional about everything, the language that they use, the protocols that they put into place.
Noah started first grade at St. Xavier's in September, and he's thriving. But the Etheridge's journey to get here isn't one they imagined. It began more than 5 years ago in North Carolina. Dustin and Christy planned a vacation to New York.
We walked out of Penn Station. I just remember that it was snowing. It was like the postcard image, the Miracle on 34th Street image that people have of New York. And it kind of like gobsmacked me. I was like, oh, this is nice.
The trip left such an impression, they moved to the Big Apple. Dustin and Christy landed jobs at DeSales Media Group, the Catholic communications and technology ministry that produces the tablet and Currents News. They decided to homeschool Noah.
Go ahead, Livy.
When their second child, Olivia, arrived in 2021, that arrangement became impossible. But Dustin and Christy weren't thrilled with many of the options.
God, little Olivia is walking in this world new.
What I don't ever want to do, and I know Dustin feels the same way, is have church just be this Sunday thing or have faith just be this Sunday thing. We really want it to be part of our family's whole life.
The Etheridges are Christian, but a Catholic education for Noah still wasn't on their radar. That is, until they saw the stories about Catholic education unfold each week on Currents News and the tablet.
Every week I'm spending 5, 6, 7 hours reading every single word of the tablet, and so I ended up reading a lot about Catholic schools in Brooklyn.
Christy sat down here and I sat down here and she said, I have a crazy idea. And I said, I think it might be the same thing I'm thinking. And before I knew it, she blurted out, she said, what about Catholic school? And I said, you know, yeah. And it was one of the easiest decisions we've ever made together.
And the Etheridges aren't alone. 30% of students enrolled in Diocese of Brooklyn schools are not Catholic, but their parents see value in the faith-based curriculum. According to the superintendent's office, Catholic schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn outperformed public schools in New York State standardized testing in every grade in 2022. Noah's safety was another consideration. The NYPD reported 3,315 weapons were recovered in Department of Education schools from July 1st to February 20th of the last academic year. According to the superintendent's office, the number of weapons brought to schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn is statistically zero.
How do you spell it?
M-O-P.
Top.
T-O-P.
Hot.
H-O-P.
Noah's become a great speller during his time at St. Xavier. But Dustin and Christy say what's more important to them is he's also learning about their Savior, Christ, and to be a good person.
We really felt like Noah would be well taken care of. It just felt really warm and inviting and nurturing, and I think it has turned out to be that way.
Noah's Catholic education and St. Xavier picks up right where Dustin and Christy leave off.
Here we go.
In Flatbush, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
If you're interested in sending your children to Catholic school too, you can get ready to enroll next year. Just visit CatholicSchoolsBQ.org or call 718-965-7380 for more information. Still to come on Currents News, they're bundling up for Mass in Michigan. Why it's colder inside this chapel than any other. Plus, football fun and Our Father, the Super Bowl ad that's set to grab your attention during the big game. New York City is about to be blasted with below freezing temperatures this weekend. So maybe we should take some advice from Catholic students out of Michigan University. This winter, they prepared an icy reception.
Friends, it's a great joy to welcome you to our ice mass this year, the first of our ice masses. And Mother Nature has cooperated with very appropriate winter weather.
Take a look at this and let's try to replicate it. Instead of building snowmen, every year students at Michigan Technological University create a palace of white snow, and they call it the Ice Chapel. The construction is supervised by the school's campus ministry and includes 10-foot sculpted walls and an altar to celebrate Mass. If you want to catch that Mass in this winter wonderland, it will be live streamed. That'll happen next Friday, February 10th. At 5:30 p.m. Just go to mtucatholic.org/icemass for more details. Something else to look forward to, the Super Bowl, just days away. But if you aren't counting down to the big game, there's always the commercials. And this year, there's something you can't miss. A unique campaign will be on display, and Tom Foreman tells us it's about the teachings of Jesus Christ.
There was this controversial figure. Everywhere he went, people challenged him.
The message is stark, arresting, and backed by $100 million. That's how much organizers say is behind this campaign to market Jesus as a patient, loving, inclusive cure for our divisive times. With the tagline, "He gets us." Jason Vanderground.
We're trying to unify the American people around the confounding love and forgiveness of Jesus.
The campaign website is filled with phrases saying Jesus called out the toxic religious and political systems, led the protest against the walls that divide us, and broke the chains that held women in bondage. Merchandise declares Jesus was a refugee and an immigrant. At first blush, it can all read like a stand against radical right-wing politics and related divisiveness. But the campaign pointedly says this is not an attack on anyone. It is an outreach to young Americans whom polls show are abandoning Christianity and other faiths at a historic pace.
A lot of times when people look at Christianity, they see it as much more unfortunate, hypocritical, judgmental, kind of discriminatory.
Add the fact that He Gets Us is funded by anonymous donors acting through a Kansas nonprofit linked to staunchly conservative causes, and it raises alarms for some skeptics, such as Chrissy Stroop, a former evangelical who now reports on religion.
I believe the He Gets Us campaign is a PR effort and website strategically developed by right-wing evangelicals to rope people in with inclusive-sounding messaging and get them plugged into local churches that will eventually teach them that to be a Christian means to support right-wing politics.
That was Tom Foreman reporting. The campaign's website says it's being funded by the Servant Foundation, but as he mentioned, most of the actual donors are anonymous. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Before we go, let's take a look back at the Pope's trip to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hope to see you again next time.